Hello, friends. Let's do the impeachment update and talk about what's happening with Donald Trump, with the state of the world and the survival of Western civilization, and some important theories about what's taking place in terms of the strategy to take Trump out of office. Remember, the deep state is what he's battling. You know what really bothers me is I'm looking at all these montages of pious protestations by Clinton-era Democrats. Remember that when the Republicans were trying to impeach Clinton, and you have Schumer saying it's completely reckless to undo the will of an election by the mechanism of impeachment. And then Nadler, it's unheard of that we would try to undo the election of a president through popular election balloting with an impeachment mechanism. And then Pelosi. In other words, all of the same ones that are mounting this hypocritical crusade to pull Donald Trump out of office, they all have sound bites saying they know this is the wrong thing to do and that it's basically a weaponizing or it's an attack on trying to unseat a president. Mark Victor Hansen, the Hoover Institute, brilliant professor who's constantly, you'll see him on Hannity and Tucker in various interviews. He says that the problem with what's happened is that the Democrats have now made whenever you have a majority in the House, you have the ability now to impeach a sitting president. And this is scary because normally Americans like to have a little bit of division. I mean, we're a little bit nutty this way. We sabotage ourselves, but we're okay with it. We just have a distrust of power. And so we like to have the House go Democrat and the White House be Republican. In other words, we like a nice balance of power. What we've created now with the Democrats is the moment Democrats get the House, God help them if they get the Senate, they have the ability to undo any election they don't like. And listen, the temperament of Democrats is they will undo any election they don't like. And if they don't get their way by the ballot box, they go to the courts and they legislate like demons from the bench. And so you've got judicial activism, you've got media mind control bombarding us 24 hours a day, you've got academic mind control with 90% of the campuses under Marxist control, which are basically brainwashing your kids into conformity on gender, pronouns, and socialism. And it's scary. I mean, we're living where if Christians continue to have this lame brain idea that you're going to hang out in revival shires and lob spiritual grenades over on the world system and pray and decree things that are going to change the courts in the country, it is delusional because you're not going to stop this particular army by faith without works. And the works is called organizing, voting, and resisting the devil in every physical and spiritual form necessary to keep the enemy from getting into your house. And so where we are now, this is so important, is that I prophesied and I said Donald Trump would be a modern-day Cyrus. And this drives the left crazy because the narrative really caught on with evangelicals. They're looking for some spiritual guidance and it's stuck. And so Christians bought into it. Bill Maher's freaking out. Every now and then you'll see a resurgence of, how can they use these idiot right-wing evangelicals liking Trump to a Bible character? And then, of course, there's the pleasers of men evangelicals who are all backing up from that too. Well, I haven't really bought into that yet because they have to explain their position to their peer group and they're worried about what people think. Well, here's the fact. Donald Trump is a modern-day Cyrus, so is Bolsonaro, so is Viktor Orban. And the proof of that is that George Soros just went to Davos and named Viktor Orban out as his major enemy. You know why Viktor Orban is his enemy? Because he kicked him out of Hungary, and he said he didn't want Soros's money and social engineering screwing up the country and Europe anymore with his borderless plans to completely erase the identity of Europe so that it could become like a conglomerate one world system. That's what these guys want. Trump is the threat to the one world system. Remember that. China wants to take over the world. Iran in the Middle East wants to take over the world. Progressive Democrats want to take over you. And these three forces are all frustrated because Trump blocked China. Trump just knocked off the number 2 genius that was mobilizing Iran throughout the Middle East with the droid. And Trump is constantly hammering back on the progressive Democrats. He is the one guy who is the Cyrus type, like Bolsonaro, like Orban, like they're now rising up around the world. These are leaders that are there for answering God's prayers from God's people for the sake of God's people, so their nations don't get assimilated into the beast prematurely. I mean, there's a beast coming, but it ain't now. We don't have to put up with it. You guys tracking with me? Okay, now here's the verse. This is so important you get this because we're on a prophetic timeline. You couldn't have asked historically for a bigger confirmation of this. I'm going to take you right now to this here verse in the Bible. Daniel chapter 10, verse 1. In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia. I'm saying Donald Trump is the modern day Cyrus. I've been prophesying that since before he got elected. He's the third year of Cyrus. Guess what? We just crossed over the conclusion of the third year, January 20th. Right now it's the 24th. On January 20th, we crossed out of the third year of Cyrus. And it was the third year of Cyrus where Persia, what is that talking about? Persia is Iran. So did you notice Iran in the news in the third year of Cyrus? So Iran, or the Prince of Persia, is at war with Cyrus, who's over here in the world's strongest military economic power right here. The whole world is affected by that country, and that's why the devil wants Trump out. He's blocking the whole flipping plan. That one obstinate guy with the orange hair from Queens. So what we got here is Daniel right away goes into this, as we're battling with the Prince of Persia. I want you to see this. Persia is what we're fighting now. You say, well, Lance, we're not fighting with Iran. You don't understand. The Prince of Persia refers to the legal system of harassment to hinder the building project of God's people. You'll see what I mean in a minute. In those days, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. So this is going to be a 21-day battle. It's not over yet. It's not going to be over. It's probably like a 3-week battle, back and forth with nuttiness. We're going to pray. We've got to pray. We can't be spectators because you'll see in a minute, this battle is with you, not with Trump. And so it goes on that for 3 full weeks he mourns, but then all of a sudden, the angel does show up. And when the angel shows up, he can't go into too much detail here. Daniel is left in his visionary place, and the angel reveals to him something. He says, Daniel, you're greatly beloved. He says now, and why would he have to tell him he's greatly beloved? Because Daniel was going through spiritual warfare for 21 days. I promise you, the devil was beating up on him, talking to him about how he was failing in his mission. Then he said to him, fear not, Daniel, from the first day you set your heart to understand the change yourself before God, your words were heard. Now, this is important because this is the year of pay, 5780. That's the words of utterance. That's the words where our prayers, our proclamation, our voice is heard. And the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me. That's a spiritual principality. And it would have been that area right there over Israel. And it controlled Israel. Israel was subjected to Persia at that time. So the angel goes on and says that he was in a great battle. And do you understand now what I've come to show you? It was revealed something about the future. And he said, now I've got to return and I've got to go back to battle with that principality. And so the angel says, I have broke through to give you a revelation. What does that tell you? That tells you that it's important for the church to have a revelation on what's happening. So we can agree together and pray because the angels can't go further than the agreement of the church. The church prays and heaven goes to war. The two are linked together. It's a wheel within a wheel. Most Christians don't get that Trump's even ordained of God. A lot of them don't get. 30 million don't even vote. Can you believe that? And they're letting us, here comes another iceberg. You're on the Titanic. Bam! 30 million of them are going to run for life rafts, but they'll all criticize the captain of the ship, but they didn't bother to avoid the iceberg. They didn't bother to vote and get the heck out of the danger zone. So that makes the urgency on you and me even more important. You've got to be clear-headed, clear-focused, and you can't be moved out of the way by all this, everything that's happening around you. Now, let's go back to this battle with the Prince of Persia, because I want to take you down. I got my Bible right here. Let's go to a Bible verse. What happens there is that in the first year, in the very first year, you got to go to Ezra if you got a Bible. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, there was prophecy that was fulfilled. God answered a prayer and intervened in the United States. And Cyrus said he wanted the Jews to do something. Now, 70 years was the time period between Jeremiah prophesying and Cyrus showing up. And Jeremiah said it'd be 70 years. 70 years between the time that Donald Trump comes into office and Israel became a nation, and we move our embassies. All connected. But what I want you to catch is this. What does the Prince of Persia do? Why was Daniel mourning in the first place? Why was Daniel even remember, Daniel is in office in the third year of like Donald Trump, third year. But what is this Prince of Persia doing in this third year, which just cycled past? We just crossed over the third year, or we ended the third year. I'll tell you what that spirit was doing. Cyrus makes the decree, and when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard the descendants of the captivity were building, in other words, when the enemy heard that of what God had done, they came to Zerubbabel and the heads of, who's Zerubbabel? He's the remnant that followed after Cyrus. When Cyrus said return, he represents the remnant. This is you. You're the Zerubbabel. You're the handful of people that are actually following what God wants to do right now with the Trump administration. And look what this says. The people of the land tried to discourage the people of Judah. They troubled them as they tried to build. This is like Make America Great. Hired counselors, lawyers, and legislators to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus. This is what the enemy does. He's hiring lawyers and working with legislators. Why is it important that America's strong? For one reason. When you're in an airplane and they say to you, make sure that in the event of the loss of cabin pressure, there's going to be an air thing is going to drop down. Secure it on yourself first and then help other people. Why? Because if you don't secure yourself first, you'll pass out and can't help anybody else. America is the sole guarantor of religious liberty around the world right now. We are the literal economic power. You notice what Trump does when he wants to deal with Iran? What is it with Turkey? When they're holding one of our pastors, he puts a tariff in place. Kabam! Right away, steel tariff. They released that Pastor Brunson back to the United States. Obama couldn't do it. No one else could do it. Trump did it overnight with a tweet threatening about he's going to bust their economy, going to break your economy in half. That's what he does. He put sanctions on Iran. Why do you think Obama gives this like a knucklehead strategy from typical deep state logic? Give the guy $150 billion. What does he do? He starts militarizing Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. He wants to all there because he wants to take out Israel and Saudi Arabia. That's what the Prince of Persia wants to do. And we don't have many friends over there. Iraq wants to kick us out. Saudi Arabia, military guy just shot up as a terrorist act our soldiers in Florida. The whole Middle East is except for where the Christians are to destroy America. But what's the factor? The United States put sanctions on Iran, put sanctions on Turkey. Boom, sanctions on Russia, sanctions on... We have the economic ability to be able to flex our muscle. The entire area here is the sea lanes of this area that would be assimilated by China. This area, boom, gobbled up by China, and their belt goes all the way into North Africa. China is going to take over when America goes down. But when China takes over with their philosophy of utilizing technology and giving social credit points for good behavior and bad behavior, that'll be like the beast on steroids. So that thing ever ties up with the caliphate in the Middle East, you got your end time scenario. You got it. You got it right there. And then of course Europe is so weak they can't even defend themselves. They collapse because they got no muscle. They're dead. Europe has no moral power except to pontificate. So Trump alone, the United States, holds this system together. That's why it's got to be Make America Great, because when America's great, the oxygen mask is on the one force that sustains liberty for the Christians around the world. Does that make sense? And now you just saw it right here, because I just showed it to you. What was Daniel wrestling about in prayer with the principality of Persia? They were discouraging, troubling, vexing, hiring lawyers, and frustrating the building process. And what we must do is we must make America to be a strong beacon of righteousness and freedom. Nothing else. We got to slow down the decay so that the other nations that are rising up, sheep nations, can get stronger. And I'm prophesying this to you because the Lord had to raise up Haggai and Zechariah, who prophesied to the Jews. They prophesied so that the work of God's house, God's building project, could go on. And then they began to build, and the prophets of God were with them, helping them. We need the prophets to kick in gear. I wrote that in my Bible. And you got Gabriel right here. Gabriel, the angel of the Lord, is at work. We got angel realms that are working with us. Does that make sense to you guys? So, the one other verse is, I want you to see this. We are right now, if Trump doesn't get elected again, then basically here we've got almost a fulfillment of this verse. It's like, and now for a little while, grace has been shown. For a little while, we had some reviving. For a little while, we had courts that had judges put in. Because the remnant was able to escape for a little while, you gave us a measure, not a full-blown, but a measure of revival. I'm not settling for that. That's not what God wants. But this is what Ezra says, is it a little while? You extended mercy, like Dutch Sheet says. Was it just a mercy for 4 years in the sight of the kings of Persia? But look at what our mission is. Revive the church. Repair the culture. Rebuild our strength. We have to there's revival for the church to produce the reformation that repairs and rebuilds the culture. And the wall refers to the sovereignty of America, not opening up our borders like Biden says, and these nut jobs, to the entire, look at that. Biden and the Democrats, they want all of the poor of South Africa and South America to come pouring into here with a $22 trillion debt that we could go down any day with that. They want to flood and take care of the rest of the poor, which basically gives them, they're just absolutely idiotic. It gives them permanent capacity to be the Maduros in charge of the decline of America as a socialist regime. That's like the dream of these socialist crazies. You are the only sane person. You have no right to just sit there in your, when cabin pressure drops, you've got to put the oxygen on, you've got to be clear-headed, and you've got to rescue that plane. That's your responsibility. Does that make sense? How are you going to do it? Well, the prayer is going to have to be a lot more singular. I haven't seen anybody leading prayer. I'm looking at the Christian television networks. I don't want to get uninvited from everywhere. I'm not seeing a whole lot of passionate rallying with this message to pray for religious liberty, and I don't know why, because that Christian liberty on TV is going to be one of the things they take out, and that's how bad it is. That's how bad it's going to be, because you're dealing with a spirit. You're dealing with a spirit. All right, so let's take a look now on the impeachment. You get the idea that we are now in finished the third year of Cyrus. Daniel's in warfare, 21 days. Prince of Persia. And what is the Prince of Persia? It was right over the Iran area there. We just had that on our screen with an almost world war. Well, it wouldn't have been a world war. It would have been a war. And boom, it's like America has amnesia. A week later, we got the Schiff show. And Adam Schiff. This guy's, I can't believe it. It's like perpetual. It's constant. It's like Mike Lindell pillow commercials on Fox. It's, you can't get away. It's there. I just want to submit. Buy the pillow. Everybody buy the thing. And Mike's a friend of mine. I'm just kidding. So, but I mean, I'm talking about an ubiquitous advertising campaign. That's what Schiff is. And so it's, oh my God, every time I turn on the television, he's back. And you know what's weird about this? Now listen to this. I'm going to give you some substantial information. It was, yesterday, it was 11 hours in the Senate for a courtroom procedure that would technically be 2 to 3 hours. You know what that means? They repeated themselves so that they could get the sound bites because they wanted media saturation, because mind control wants to broadcast even if it's repeating itself, because Americans are tuning in. And the key word they use, like social science manipulators and hypnotists, what is fair? Witnesses, fair. Witnesses, only fair to bring the witnesses. It's only fair. What they're not saying is the House is supposed to bring the witnesses and build the case and the argument of sufficient merit and force to send it to the Senate for the trial. Senate is supposed to be building the witnesses. They're supposed to be the judge, basically. The lawyers have to present the case. You can't go before the judge and say, I'd like to have the trial now, but I need you to get me some more witnesses. So anyway, it's fascinating bit of mind control to watch how the Democrats do this. But the theme yesterday for them was that Mitch McConnell wants to hold a trial without evidence, when in fact there is no evidence. The evidence is all in a transcript. I want you to take a look at the transcript. Most of us have not, they're not even talking about the transcript. I think they're making a major mistake. Even the Republicans are making a mistake. They should be looking at that transcript. So let's take a look at some of the important stuff here. And by the way, I was disappointed to find out that Justice Roberts, who's presiding over this thing, is a never-Trumper. Did you know that? My gosh, he's a never-Trumper. That shows how easy it is to get bit by the mosquitoes in the swamp and get a virus. These guys all have to live there in Georgetown. They all have to live there. Their kids go there, their wives go there, their families there. They have a life outside of court, just like any of us that have a profession. And I knew that when Justice Kennedy, I knew friends of mine that were actually at his house because they were part of his family, like his nieces and nephews. And they were saying how they discussed stuff with him. These are family members. What about abortion? What about this? And he's got to deal with all the millennial grandchildren and stuff. The pressure on conforming in Washington to the never Trump one world deep state groupthink that sees you as an idiot and Trump as a buffoon and can't wait to get back to normal. That's why it bothers me about the montage. It's not just that I look at the flashbacks on Nadler and Schumer and Pelosi, all wringing their hands in distress over the very sober implications of trying to undo an election through a process of impeachment is not only un-American, it's dangerous. All these flippant hypocrites all said that speech for Clinton. Now they're trying to do it to Trump. What bothers me, I don't see the montage coming from the Republicans. Why is it the Democrats can be in the minority in the Congress and take over the country with Russia? How is it when these people are in the minority? Have you ever had somebody that is, and we all know these kind of people. It's someone who's really strong-willed, loud, almost hot-headed, and if you invite them over to a party or an event, they literally dominate the room, and you got to be careful what subject comes up because they'll take over. Well, the Democrats in the minority take over the Republicans. Republicans in the majority make it possible. And I know you're fed up with this, and I'm pointing it out because I'm fed up with it too. Because right now, I don't see that little montage. I'm not seeing. I don't know where the heck they are. It's like the only ones with voices are like Jim Jordan and, Ted Cruz will mouth off every now and then. Rand Paul will say something. And Lindsey Graham, if Hannity puts pressure on him, will start to chirp a little bit. Basically, there's nobody talking. I want to know, where are the rest of you guys? I'll tell you what you're doing. It's like Rubio. Rubio used to have a voice. What happened to Marco Rubio? Is he still offended with Trump? These guys, they should be trotting out during their little sound bites, just like the Democrats do. Republicans are all, well, we'll have to wait and see the evidence. Well, maybe we do, but I learned a few things this week I didn't know. We got Jezebel on the left and Ahab on the right. Passivity and perversion, trying to take over the country. There's a sound bite for you. All right, anyway, you guys, you know the whistleblower is? You want to meet him? Can I show you who the whistleblower is? I might not even get my broadcast up if I do that. But there he is. Passover. There's a Passover account. So anyway, the guys, that's the whistleblower, but we're not supposed to know who he is. This is the guy who wasn't even present for the call. But here's the problem with the whistleblower. We've got evidence now that in the first 2 weeks after the inauguration, he was already a holdover Obama guy, a coarse Brennan CIA contact, and he was talking about impeaching the president 2 weeks after the inauguration. 2 weeks after, there's evidence of him talking about impeaching the president, figuring out how to do it. Then you got this guy here, who they're trotting out now because they don't want to have the whistleblower go up there. So they got this other guy, Les Parnas, and Schiff does something really crazy with him. He lies during the Senate procedure. Lies. And he says that he has evidence that his man right here, this guy here, he wants to bring up there, who, by the way, got paid off $1 million by Russia, and the Democrats trying to work him, kind of like Avenatti and Stormy Daniels. He's the late-breaking, he's the bombshell witness, but he's got nothing to share. But Adam Schiff, typical of the radical left mentality, has actually claimed that this guy has had communicated with the president of Ukraine, and that he has inside information. And when he knows that he didn't communicate with the president of the Ukraine, he communicated with the president of Burisma, which is the company that was being investigated, that Hunter Biden was getting paid by. And that's how bad this is. They're lying about evidence of the activity, illegal activity in the White House. The guy says he met the president of the United States. He never met the president of the United States. This guy claims he met Trump, never met with Trump. Then he denied, well, maybe I was mistaken. And wouldn't you know if you met with Donald Trump or not? Would that be something that you got suddenly, oh, yeah, maybe I did meet the guy. So he didn't meet him, and he claimed he did. So, but you can't find any of that stuff in the search engines on Google. That's part of the problem. Google is like, God help us during this election cycle in terms of search engines. All right, so you guys tracking me so far? Please don't go yet. I got something very important. I should stop the broadcast now and probably broadcast it in an hour. Some of these are too long for some people. It's like, but I have to show you what's in the transcript. I don't know. Should I just bounce now and do this thing later? Because I want you to see the transcript. I want you to see the transcript. By the way,